I want to talk about my top 10 offenses going into the 2022 NFL season. Now, these are going to be ranked in order from 10, 9, 8, 7, 6 to number 1. So, feel free to disagree with me down in the comment section down below. Talk about which teams are too high, which are too low, and which teams got left off the list that you feel should be in this top 10. So I kind of have a little bit of a criteria that I did this by. The teams that are mostly on this list have good offensive lines, a stacked group of wide receivers, and quarterback kind of played a little bit of a factor into where some of these teams are ranked as well, along with the talent that they have at running back also. So let's start off at number 10 with the Green Bay Packers. So even though the Packers lost DeVante Adams, they traded him away to the Las Vegas Raiders, they still have to be included on this list because they have the bad man Aaron Rodgers. And as long as you have Aaron Rodgers, you can never count out the Green Bay Packers offense. They have Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, a really good 1-2 punch in the backfield. The wide receiver position isn't the greatest. You have Sammy Watkins, Allen Lazard, Randall Cobb in the slot, but you do have a promising young rookie wide receiver and Christian Watson out of North Dakota State and Romeo Doubs out of Nevada. You have Robert Tonyan at tight end. Your offensive line is okay. You have a really good situation at offensive tackle. David Bakhtiari is one of the better left tackles in the league, along with Elton Jenkins. At right tackle, John Runyan isn't bad at left guard neither. So the Packers come in at number 10 for me. I think that this offense cannot be overlooked. You look at the fact that you have Aaron Rodgers. He's been playing out of this world for over the last couple of years, back-to-back MVPs. This offense deserves to be on this top 10. The Kansas City Chiefs come in at number 9. Like the Green Bay Packers, they also lost a really talented wide receiver in Tyreek Hill, who they gave away to the Miami Dolphins. But they do have Mecole Hardman, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Juju Smith-Schuster, who is one of the best slot receivers in the league. You have rookie wide receivers Justin Ross, who went undrafted but is super talented, been making a lot of plays for the Chiefs during OTAs and minicamp. And you have Sky Moore out of Western Michigan. So yes, this offense is going to have a drop-off with the loss of Tyreek Hill, but you also have Travis Kelce. And Travis Kelce has received more targets than Tyreek Hill, and he's kind of been Patrick Mahomes' safety blanket. And a lot of people keep saying that the Chiefs are not going to be good because they lost Tyreek Hill. The most important pieces of this offense are still there. Patrick Mahomes and the big red machine, Andy Reid. Listen, good wide receivers come and go in the NFL. Yes, losing Tyreek Hill is a huge loss, but just because you lost him doesn't mean you should overlook the fact that the Kansas City Chiefs do have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. You have Orlando Brown, Andrew Wiley at your offensive tackle spots, Joe Thuney, right guard, Trey Smith, and Creed Humphrey at center. This is one of the best O-lines in the league. So even though Hill is a loss, you still have a really good offense from a talent perspective. You also bring in Ronald Jones via free agency. You pair him up with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. This is still going to be a really good offense. This is still going to be a top 10 caliber offense, with the fact that the most important pieces are still intact with Mahomes and Andy Reid. And we know that Andy Reid is one of the best offensive minds in the history of this game. He's going to find out ways to get the ball to these talented wide receivers that they have on this roster. And you could expect Mecole Hardman to step up, but you also could potentially have some young rookies and Ross and Moore who step up as well. So spreading the wealth is going to be really key. And Patrick Mahomes also has a really good record without Tyreek Hill, and he's also more efficient without Tyreek Hill, because when Tyreek Hill was playing, there were a lot of times when Patrick Mahomes would force him the ball downfield when it was unnecessary. So I think that you're going to see a more efficient offense without Tyreek Hill, although you may have a drop-off when it comes to the big plays downfield. But this offense should still be a top 10 offense. The Chiefs come in at number 9 for me. At number 8, we have the New Orleans Saints. Yes, they did lose Sean Peyton, one of the best offensive minds in the history of this game, but they have Pete Carmichael as their offensive coordinator. And unless you're a Saints fan, you don't know who the hell Pete Carmichael is. Well, Pete Carmichael has called plays for the New Orleans Saints several times throughout the past years. He's been with this organization since Sean Peyton first arrived in New Orleans back in 2006. He called plays during 2011, 2012. He also called plays when Sean Peyton has been out. And the Saints offense has always ranked in the top 5 every single year that Pete Carmichael has been the play caller. You have Jameis Winston coming back from his season-ending injury. He was on pace to have one of the best seasons that he has ever had in his NFL career. He was the most efficient quarterback in the NFL before he had his injury. And plus, he was doing this with a god-awful group of wide receivers. The New Orleans Saints last year had the worst wide receiving core in the NFL for a team that had a winning record. Now you have Michael Thomas, who should be coming back fully healthy. You draft rookie wide receiver Chris Olave in the first round. Plus you sign Jarvis Landry. Although Jarvis Landry is getting a little bit up there in age, he's still really good, really productive. Plus you have Marquez Callaway there for depth as well. Alvin Kamara is going to be in the backfield depending on when he plays. We are expecting him to have some kind of punishment from the NFL for what happened during Pro Bowl weekend. You're going to have Mark Ingram there. They're probably going to sign another running back as well until Alvin Kamara comes back. So we're probably going to see a little bit of a 1-2 punch. Now, this offensive line did lose left tackle Teron Armstead in free agency to the Miami Dolphins, but you drafted a promising offensive tackle prospect and Trevor Penning. Now, Trevor Penning has been labeled a little bit as a project player, but the New Orleans Saints are really good when it comes to drafting and developing offensive linemen. You still have Ryan Ramczyk on the right side along with Andres Pete, Cesar Ruiz. You have Eric McCoy at center. This is still one of the best offensive lines in the game. Your only concern is going to be how productive is left tackle Trevor Penning going to be year 1 this season. You also have Adam Trottem at tight end. He could be in for a breakout season. I thought last year was going to be that year, but I think that this season you're going to see him involved more in this offense and in this passing game. And listen, I know a lot of people are going to have their questions about Jameis Winston, but Jameis Winston, if you didn't watch the Saints play last year, this is a different Jameis Winston versus the one that we saw when he was throwing 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions his final season at Tampa. This is somebody who has become better when it comes to taking the risk. Even though he still does make a couple of throws every once in a while that make you go, why'd you throw that? He's been better when it comes to picking when to be aggressive, when to take risk, and when to check the football down and take what the defense gives him. And with Pete Carmichael as the offensive coordinator, this offense isn't going to change all that much compared to what Sean Peyton was calling last season. So the New Orleans Saints come in at number 8 for me. Coming in at number 7, I have the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles have improved a lot over the course of this offseason. You trade for A.J. Brown. You're going to be pairing him up with DeVante Smith, who had a pretty solid rookie season, along with Quez Watkins in the slot. Your running back position probably could be a little bit better. Out of all of the teams on this list, the Eagles probably have the worst running backs out of all these teams, but Miles Sanders is okay. Kenneth Gainwell is also pretty solid. The offensive line is criminally underrated. This is one of the more underrated offensive lines in the NFL. This was a top 10 unit. A lot of experience. You also have a little bit of youth as well. But how good this offense is going to be this season is going to be primarily determined by the play of Jalen Hurts and how much he develops as a passer going into his second season as the full-time starter in Philly. Last year, this offense was really fun to watch when the run game was highly effective. But when Philadelphia was asked to have to throw the football to win games, i.e. when they played played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the wild card round, it was god awful. This offense either was pretty good running the football or god awful when it came to throwing it. And hopefully with the addition of A.J. Brown and you pair him up with DeVante Smith, it should make it a lot easier for Jalen Hurts to make that next jump as a passer this season. You also do have tight end Dallas Goedert, who happens to be one of the top tight ends in the game at the moment. So Philadelphia's offense comes in at number 7 on my top 10 NFL offenses going into this season. I have the Minnesota Vikings coming in at number 6. This is probably going to cause a little bit of controversy in the comment section, but it really shouldn't, because if you think about Kevin O'Connell, he's coming from that Sean McVay coaching tree. Remember, Zach Taylor recently just appeared in the Super Bowl with the Cincinnati Bengals. He also comes from that McVay coaching tree. Kevin O'Connell is a really innovative offensive mind. If you listen to this guy talk, he knows football inside and out. And this no longer is going to be a run-first offense that we have been so accustomed to seeing in Minnesota for a very long time. Justin Jefferson recently appeared on NFL Total Access and said that this offense is going to be predicated towards spreading the football around. So this passing game is going to be really good. Kirk Cousins is coming off the most efficient season of his NFL career last year. A lot of people overlook how good Kirk Cousins was last season because everybody's just drawn to this narrative that Kirk Cousins is overrated. Well, Kirk Cousins is going to be really good this season, and so is his Vikings offense. You got Justin Jefferson. You have Adam Thielen, one of the better wide receiver duos in the NFL. You have KJ Osborne, who came on last year. He could improve more this season now that he's going to be in a more pass-friendly offense. Irv Smith at tight end. We've been waiting for Irv Smith to break out for a while. This could finally be the year now. And you have Dalvin Cook, who happens to be one of the best running backs in the game. This offense has it all when it comes to the skill position. You have wide receivers who are really good. You have a phenomenal running back, and you have a young, promising tight end. Then the offensive line isn't too bad. A lot of people think that the Vikings offensive line isn't good. I don't really think that that's true. They're average. Out of all of the teams on this top 10, they probably have the worst offensive line out of all 10 of them. But you do have Christian Darrisaw, who is coming off a really solid rookie season. Brian O'Neill, he's good also. And Ezra Cleveland at left guard is pretty consistent as well. Your weak spots are Garrett Bradbury at center and right guard. Hopefully, with the changing of the scheme, because Minnesota and Kevin O'Connell has said that they're going to be experimenting with different run schemes to get the most out of this off the line and try to improve it. But the off the line isn't quite all that bad as people think that it is. Really, outside of two positions, this is a really solid offensive line. The Vikings offense, if you disagree with this, I promise you, this offense is going to be really fun to watch this season. If you are a Vikings fan and you're watching this, you have every right to be excited for what this offense is going to do. I think that Kirk Cousins, if the Vikings are able to get into the playoffs, I think he potentially could be a dark horse MVP candidate. He was really good last season. He probably is an outside looking in of a top 10 quarterback. You probably rank him top 12, maybe 11th, somewhere around that category. But this season, I really think that we see Kirk Cousins end up taking a giant leap and he ends up becoming a top 10 quarterback. You remember what happened with Matthew Stafford when he spent all those years in Detroit? Well, he gets traded to the LA Rams with a really good play caller, somebody who knows offense. And look what happened to Matthew Stafford. Now everybody's raving about him. I think that Kevin O'Connell is going to have a similar effect on Kirk Cousins. And Kirk Cousins was never a bad quarterback. I don't know where the hell that has came from. He's always been really good. He hasn't been elite, but he's always been really good. This season, under Kevin O'Connell's tutelage, I think that we see Kirk Cousins become an elite quarterback in 2022. Minnesota Vikings at number 6. At number 5, we have the Buffalo Bills. A lot of Bills fans were highly upset that I didn't have them on my top 5 passing attacks for 2022, but I do think that this offense, when it comes to complete talent, and what they have at every single position on this side of the football is one of the top 5 best offenses in the NFL. Yes, running back may not be ideal. You have Devin Singletary. The thing with Devin Singletary is that he's inconsistent. You got rookie out of Georgia, James Cook, the younger brother of Dalvin Cook. I feel he's going to bring a different dimension to that Buffalo Bills offense, simply for the fact that he's really good catching the football out of the backfield. Make sure that you guys go ahead and check out my segment that I recently did talking about James Cook and how effective he can be for Buffalo. But to give you guys a brief summary of James Cook, he's probably one of the natural pass catchers of the football that you will ever see from the running back position. Not only that, but he runs really phenomenal routes for a running back. So you're going to see him utilized in a similar way that Alvin Kamara is utilized with the New Orleans Saints. At tight end, you have Dawson Knox and O.J. Howard. I'm really excited for what Buffalo potentially could do at tight end this season. You look at Dawson Knox, he's been phenomenal for the Buffalo Bills. You look at O.J. Howard, this is somebody who we have kind of forgotten about over the last couple of years because he got phased out in Tampa Bay. Well, newsflash, O.J. Howard was a former first-round pick, and his first couple of seasons were pretty solid. The only problem with O.J. Howard that held him back early in his career were injuries. So if Buffalo can keep him healthy and somewhat feature him in a role on this offense, I think he can be a big contributor here. Then you have Stephon Diggs, Gabriel Davis. Gabriel Davis went off in the playoffs, had a game when he went for over 200 yards. The dude has elite size, crazy athleticism. Many people, myself included, expect him to be in for a breakout season. And then you have Jamison Crowder. Jamison Crowder is a really good slot receiver. He was underutilized during his time with the New York Jets and held back by bad quarterback play. And there was one point in time when he was actually the New York Jets' best player on offense at one point. So for Jamison Crowder going to the Buffalo Bills, I think he could end up being a better slot receiver than what Cole Beasley was in that offense. And Cole Beasley was a monster in the slot for the Buffalo Bills. So I like the Bills offense this year. The offensive line is pretty solid. Yeah, it's not going to blow your rocks off, but this offensive line is good enough to get the job done. And then let's not forget about Josh Allen. To me, Josh Allen was the second best quarterback in the NFL last season. He was on my all-pro team. We talk about how strong of an arm he has, but this dude is a phenomenal athlete. He was carrying the Buffalo Bills ground game last season. If you were to take away Josh Allen's rushing yards last season, the Buffalo Bills will have one of the worst rushing attacks in the NFL. So the Buffalo Bills, number 5. Number 4, we have the Los Angeles Chargers. This offense under offensive coordinator Joe Lombardi was really fun to watch. It was explosive, a lot of big plays down the field. That was attributed to Justin Herbert. Last season, he threw for over 5,000 yards. He completed 65.9% of his passes. You're hoping that he can get the turnovers down and be a little bit more cautious with the football. But other than that, I think that he should be in the running for MVP this season. You have Keenan Allen, who is a top 10 wide receiver. I'm not going to continue to give you guys a lecture on why he is. If you are a football fan and you are somebody who doesn't care about stats and fantasy football, and you really understand the X's and O's, and you understand what Keenan Allen brings to the wide receiver position, then you know that he is a top 10 wide receiver. I'm not going to keep arguing about it. Mike Williams is coming off a career year. He's probably one of the best deep threats that we have in the NFL, and it's not because he's a blazer, it's because he has solid speed, but this guy can go up and make some of the most acrobatic catches, better than the majority of wide receivers in the league. You also have Joshua Palmer, Jalen Guyton, so those guys are also going to be able to come in and have some solid production in this offense. They also added tight end Gerald Everett to pair him up with Donald Parham. And we can't forget about Austin Eckler and what he does in the passing game, along with what he brings to the run game as well. And this offensive line is pretty good. Outside of right tackle, which they have a little bit of some concern there, left tackle, really good. You also drafted rookie offensive guard Zion Nelson. So this off the line is going to be even better than what it was last season. And the off the line was pretty good last year. Now with Zion Nelson, this offense should be really, really potent this year. And what's scary is that the offense was one of the best in the NFL statistically last season. So imagine the kind of numbers that they can rack up this year with the improvement of the off the line drafting Zion Nelson. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are coming in at number 3. This offense, do we need to say it more? Still one of the most talented in the NFL. Tom Brady's coming back for another year. You have to wonder, will Father Time finally catch up to Tom Brady? We don't know. But for right now, the Buccaneers have him coming back, and he's still one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. You got pretty much the second best wide receiving core in the league, probably the best in terms of overall talent and depth. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, one of the best wide receiver duos in the NFL. But I don't know if a lot of you guys know this, but they signed Russell Gage. And Russell Gage is a pretty good slot receiver. And he's an upgrade from Scotty Miller. So you're going to have him, you're going to have Scotty, and you're going to have Tyler Johnson and Jalen Darden there. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are the most talented / deepest wide receiver group in the NFL. Now, many people are going to say the Cincinnati Bengals. I agree. The Bengals do have a better wide receiving core when it comes to their 1, 2, and 3. But if we're talking about in terms of overall depth, if Chris Godwin was to go down, Tyler Johnson could step in. If Mike Evans was to go down, they can have somebody else step in. There's so much depth and talent in this wide receiver room. Cameron Brate at tight end should get more volume with the retirement of Rob Gronkowski, and with O.J. Howard departing for the Buffalo Bills in free agency. If you're somebody who's watching this and you're looking for somebody to pick up in fantasy football, I think that Cameron Brate could be a really good value pick. At running back, you got Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette had a really good season for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He probably could have ended up going for over 1,000 yards if he would have played the whole entire season. But you also have a rookie running back out of Arizona State and Ricard Wright, who a lot of Buccaneers fans are really excited to see because he brings a lot to this offense in terms of what he can do in the passing game. He also has very good size. Stay tuned because I have a segment coming out this week about Ricard White and how good he potentially could be with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But I love this offense. You still have Brian Leftwich as your offensive coordinator. Even though Bruce Arians is gone, this offense still shouldn't change. Let's face it, Tom Brady was most likely calling the shots anyway. This is his offense. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have the 3rd best offense in the NFL. They come in at number 3 on my list. We have the defending Super Bowl champions, the Los Angeles Rams, coming in first to last. Despite losing Andrew Whitworth and Austin Colbert, Whitworth finally retired. Colbert left for the Carolina Panthers in free agency. This off the line should still be a very good unit, no worse than top 12. You add Allen Robinson to the outside. He's going to be in replacing Robert Woods, who you ended up trading away to the Tennessee Titans. And even though you don't know what's going to happen with OBJ, Sean McVay has already came out several times publicly and said that they would love for OBJ to come back. So it looks like the offer is still on the table for OBJ to still be part of this offense. But until then, you have Van Jefferson, Cooper Kupp coming off a career year, and you have Tutu Atwell. So this is still a really good receiving core. And Sean McVay was really excited about the addition of Allen Robinson. He said that Allen Robinson is somebody who can win one-on-one outside of the numbers. He can be a really fantastic deep threat. And Matthew Stafford loves to throw the deep ball. He has one of the strongest arms in the NFL, so he fits perfectly in this offense. We also can't forget about tight end Tyler Higbee, who may be the most underrated tight end in the game. He doesn't get talked about a bunch because of how dynamic Cooper Kupp has been for the LA Rams, but he's also one of the more better blocking tight ends in the NFL, in my opinion. Really good in the run game. But then you have Cam Akers coming back at running back. He missed the majority of last year due to him recovering from a Achilles injury that he suffered in the offseason. Then you have Darrell Henderson, and Darrell Henderson was pretty solid last year when he was in for Cam Akers during his injury. So now you're going to have Cam Akers, who's going to be your primary running back. He's probably going to be in for a breakout season as long as he can stay healthy, but you're also going to have Darrell Henderson there if you need somebody to give Cam Akers some rest there. So this is a really good offense overall. Yes, some people are going to have questions about the offensive line, but there are some guys who they have filling in for those losses who they feel really confident in. I'm going to have a lot of faith in Sean McVay and his coaching staff that they're going to make the right decisions when it comes to who starts on that offensive line. LA Rams coming at number 2. If you guys didn't know, now you know. The Cincinnati Bengals come in at number 1. I think that they're going to have the best offense in the NFL this season. You think about what their offense did last year, despite the fact that they had the worst offensive line in the NFL. Joe Burrow, 34 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, completed 70.4% of his passes. Imagine what he's going to do now with a reinvented and revamped offensive line. You have Jonah Williams at left tackle. He was your best offensive lineman last year. You signed Ted Karras, who's going to be starting at center, Alex Kappa at right guard, and right tackle La'el Collins, who happens to be one of the best right tackles in the NFL. You pair that up with the fact that you have the best wide receiving core in the NFL. Jamar Chase took the NFL by storm year 1, and that was only his first season. Imagine what he's going to do in year 2. Now the fact that Joe Burrow is going to have more time to throw him the football. Maybe we see Jamar Chase crack over 1,800 yards this year. You have T. Higgins. You have Tyler Boyd, who is the best slot receiver in the NFL. It doesn't get no better than this. If you're talking about the best receiving core in the NFL when it comes to their 2 outside receivers and their slot receiver, no team has a better top 3 than the Cincinnati Bengals. Let's not forget about Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon was kind of the unsung hero for Cincinnati during their playoff run last year. He was really effective, especially in the Super Bowl. So for Joe Mixon, he's also going to benefit from having a revamped offensive line. We may see him go for over 13, maybe 1,400 yards. I think that this Cincinnati Bengals offense is going to be really fantastic this year. I think that it's going to set records. I think that this offense is probably going to come to the closest thing to being unstoppable that we may see. It's just really unfair. The football gods really bless Joe Burrow. How often do you see a quarterback have the opportunity to have not only the best receiving core in the NFL, but arguably one of the best offensive lines in the NFL? Not all that often. So I think that Joe Burrow is going to end up winning MVP. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him throw for over 50 touchdowns, maybe break the NFL passing touchdown record. Listen, I'm not a Bengals fan. I'm a Steelers fan, but I'm giving all the praise to the Cincinnati Bengals. I think that this offense is going to be fantastic. I think they're going to have the best offense in the league this year. So this is it for my top 10 offenses going into the 2022 NFL season. Let me know what you guys think about it down in the comment section down below. Who's too high? Who's too low? Who should have been on this list? Make sure that you guys check out the JT Sports Podcast, available on all podcasting platforms. Wherever you get your podcasts from, the JT Sports Podcast is available. Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Make sure that you check out the JT Sports Podcast and rate it 5 stars. Also, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the content, and I will see you guys later with another episode of the JT Sports Podcast.